Hey everyone, before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Drop a comment with where you're watching from and what time it is there. I love seeing how global our community is. Now, let's get started. The only time I ever answered a phone from a room that didn't exist was the night my hotel added a floor just for me. If you've ever worked nights, you know buildings feel different after 3 a.m. The lobby gets this hollow echo, like the walls are listening. The fluorescent lights above the front desk hummed like a weak beehive. My coffee tasted burned, and somewhere in the vents I could hear a slow metallic ticking. In the middle of all that, the house phone started ringing. Even though every guest was supposed to be asleep. "Front desk, Amir speaking," I said, because that's what I had trained myself to say on repeat all week. Probation week. One screw up and I was gone. A calm voice answered. "Yeah, this is room 904. There's water in the walls, and something smells like it's burning." I froze. Our hotel only has 8 floors. I spun the monitor toward me and pulled up the occupancy grid. No 9th floor. Number 904. Just the usual rooms, some empty, some checked in. But right as I was about to tell them they had the wrong number, a new line flashed at the bottom of the screen. 904. Occupied. Credit card on file. The letters flickered like bad neon. Then they vanished. "Sir, can you repeat the room number?" I asked. My own voice sounded thin. Silence. Then a wet, crackling noise came through the line, like someone squeezing water out of a sponge next to the receiver. The call cut, leaving only the hum of the lobby lights. If this was a prank, it was a bad one. I dug through the cluttered drawer under the desk, looking for the laminated floor maps. While shoving old paperwork aside, I knocked down a small Polaroid pinned to the back wall. It fluttered face up onto the counter. Someone, years ago, had taken a picture of a hotel corridor. The carpet was soaked dark, the walls blackened with smoke in strange crawling patterns. Above the far exit sign, in blurred lettering, you could just make out 9th floor. I told myself it was from another property the company used to own. I told myself lots of things that night. A chime sounded behind me. The elevator had just moved. That was normal. What wasn't normal was the faint smell that drifted into the lobby at the same time. Over-chlorinated pool water, sharp and chemical, mixed with the faint sweetness of something burned long ago. Our pool was on the ground level, nowhere near the guest floors. I glanced at the time. 3:27 a.m. At 4 a.m., the audit software would run its automatic reports. If some corrupted room charge stayed stuck in the system when corporate checked in the morning, it would land on my name. New night auditor, can't even keep the folio clean. Fired before I'd even finished paying off my training loan. I pulled the occupancy screen back up. For half a second, 904 flickered again. This time it had minibar charges stacking on it. 1 bottle, 2, 3. I tried to delete the folio. As soon as I cleared it, the charges came back, like someone upstairs was ordering in real time. Behind me, the elevator dinged softly. The digital display above the doors blinked. 7, 8, 9. We do not have a 9th floor button. I stared at the panel when the doors opened. Ground, 1 through 8. No, 9. But the display had definitely shown it passing a level that wasn't supposed to exist. That was when the taped-over line on the lobby phone lit up. A crusty strip of gray tape covered an old label that, if you squinted under the glue, still faintly read 9FL. The light under it glowed steady red. I should have called the supervisor. I should have pretended the phones were dead. Instead, trying to prove I could handle nights, I picked it up. "Front desk, Amir speaking," I said. On the other end, I heard the same words, in my own voice, repeated back to me half a second late. "Front desk, Amir speaking." Then a chorus of dripping sounds, dozens of drops hitting water. Something exhaled through the line, bubbling, like someone trying to talk underwater. I slammed the phone down. For a moment, everything went quiet again. The lobby, the lights, even the ticking in the vents. I watched the clock crawl closer to 4 a.m. If the ghost room kept posting charges, the audit report would flag unverified transaction and send an automatic notice with my ID attached. Maybe you think I'm exaggerating, but when you live paycheck to paycheck, a software flag feels like a death sentence. The security guard, Malik, radioed in from the lot. "Gonna check something outside, kid. Be back in 5. "Wait," I said, but the speaker crackled off that I tried calling his cell. No reception. The lobby phones all sputtered static except the taped 9FL line, which blinked steadily, waiting. I opened the stairwell door behind the front desk to see if Malik was maybe on the lower levels. The emergency evacuation map on the wall caught my EYE.IT showed a building outline with floors labeled L, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and a faint, scratched out 9. Someone had tried to scrub that number away, but under the harsh stairwell light, it seemed to have come back. Clearer, the smell of chlorine was stronger in the stairwell. Under it was something else, older and sour, like smoke soaked into wet drywall. Each step I took upward sounded wrong, like there was empty space where concrete should be. Back at the desk, the printer whirred suddenly on its own. A keycard slid out, cool and blue, with a room number printed at the top. If you're listening to this thinking, I would have quit right then, you're probably smarter than I am. But I was 23, on probation, alone, and 1 hour away from an audit that could erase my job. The system had popped up a red banner. Unverified occupant on restricted level. Automatic report IN00:32.32 minutes that I picked up the keycard. The plastic felt damp, like someone had just pulled it out of a bucket. The elevator doors opened before I even pressed the button. Inside, the panel looked the same as always, but the display above the doors showed a waiting, unlit 9. I swiped the card against the reader. The 9 lit up, even though there was no button there to press. The doors closed. The car shuddered, like it was squeezing through a space too tight, and I felt my ears pop. The numbers above the doors cycled. 6, 7, 8, then nothing. No floor number at all, just a blank black rectangle. When the doors finally slid open, the cold hit me first. The corridor outside looked exactly like the Polaroid. Carpet soaked, so dark it almost shone, squishing under each step. The walls were charred and long, reaching streaks, as if something hot had crawled up from the floor and licked the ceiling. A faint, flickering exit sign at the far end hummed. Above it, in rusted letters, was a metal placard, 9th floor, somewhere down the hall. A phone rang. I followed the sound, passing doors with numbers I didn't recognize, each slightly swollen from water damage. The smell of chlorine and burned plastic made my eyes water. The ringing grew louder until I stood in front of a door with a cracked plaque, 904. The light above the peephole glowed a sick, yellow-white. Inside, I could hear a voice. My own, front desk, Amir speaking. It said, slightly muffled by the door. Then the wet crackling, like a flooded line, against every instinct that wanted to run. I swiped the keycard and pushed the door open. The room was dim, bathed in the blue-green glow of a television with no picture. Water seeped from the walls in thin streams, pooling on the carpet. Smoke stains twisted up around the sprinkler heads. In the middle of the room, facing away from me, sat a man in a front desk uniform identical to mine, shoulders hunched. Phone to his ear, on the screen in front of him was the lobby camera feed. I saw myself, at the desk, answering the phone earlier that night. I watched my own lips move. Front desk, Amir speaking. The man slowly turned his head toward me, but his face never came into focus. It shifted, like I was seeing multiple versions laid over each other. Different night clerks, different years, same uniform, same expression of tired annoyance, then fear. You took the call, he said, voice bubbling with water in his lungs. So did I? So did we. He gestured to the walls. Behind the peeling wallpaper, shadows of other shapes moved, like silhouettes of people banging to get out. They built over us. They deleted the floor. The building remembers. It keeps the night going until someone fixes the folio. The phone in his hand started ringing again. Then the one on the nightstand. Then the one on the bathroom wall. All of them flashing 9:04. I backed out into the hall, heart pounding. The soaked carpet clung to my shoes. Somewhere behind me, a dozen voices spoke my greeting at once. Front desk, Amir speaking. I ran for the elevator, jabbing the call button even though I knew there was no 9th floor button to take me back. The doors opened anyway. The display showed L. When I stumbled into the lobby. It was already turning gray with early dawn. The humming lights sounded weaker. My monitor blinked awake, humming like it had just restarted. The occupancy grid was clean. Number 904. No unverified charges. But there was a new reservation at the top of the list. Guest name, Amir Khan. Room, 904. Status, check-in pending. I looked up at the elevator panel one last time. The 9 was gone again, as if it had never been there. But as the doors closed on their own, the display flickered for a half second, just long enough to flash a single number and faint. Watery light that if you ever stay in an old airport hotel and notice that the elevator display skips a floor, check the folio names before you sleep. You might see mine waiting there, still pending. The strangest boss I ever had never showed up on the schedule, never signed a paycheck, and never checked out of the hotel. If you have ever worked nights in a dead season, you know the quiet feels heavier than noise. That mountain hotel sat by itself on a snowed-in road. Half the room's empty, the parking lot buried in drifts. And the only sound after midnight was the wind scraping across the glass and the low hum of the backup generator in the basement. It was my first solo night shift. My name is Rizwan, and everything I am about to tell you happened during one storm between midnight and 4 in the morning. The manager had warned me before she left. Finish the night audit by 3, keep the doors locked, and do not let guests check out in the middle of a blizzard. Company policy. I nodded like it was no big thing, but I needed that job. I was behind on rent, behind on everything. Failing my first solo shift would mean going back home with my suitcase and nothing to show for it. Around 12:20, the desk bell rang. I did not touch IT. IT was an old brass bell with a cracked surface and a faint brown stain underneath, the kind of thing that belonged in a different decade. The lobby was empty. No footsteps, no doors, nothing. I stared at it, waiting for the camera to show some explanation. Instead, the air around me changed. The lobby had been warm from the baseboard heaters, but suddenly a thin thread of cold slid between my shoulder blades, the way it feels when someone stands too close behind you. Along with it came the smell of old cigar smoke, stale and sweet. "You are on your own tonight?" A man's voice asked, close to my ear. I turned. He was standing beside the front desk, like he had been there all along. An older man in a dark, outdated suit, tie slightly loose, silver hair combed back. He had a key ring in one hand that tinkled softly when he shifted his weight. He wore no coat, even though his shoulders glittered faintly, as if snow had melted into him instead of on him. "Sorry, sir. I did not see you come in," I said. "Are you staying with us?" "I am already here," he said, almost amused. "Hamid, night manager." I relaxed a little. Of course there would be someone else on duty. Maybe he lived nearby and came in through the staff door. "No one told me there was a night manager scheduled," I said. "That is because they do not work nights," he replied. "We do." The bell chimed again by itself. The generator in the basement coughed once and then steadied. Somewhere upstairs, pipes groaned. A few minutes later, the phone rang. Room 305. Guest complained about scratching in the walls, said it sounded like someone dragging nails slowly, backward and forward. I started to apologize and offer a discount, but Hamid shook his head. "Move them to 402, he said quietly. "Now, do not mention the scratching. Do not ask questions. Then close 305 for the night." I did what he said. As soon as 305 went vacant in the system, the scratching on the line stopped, cut like someone pressing mute on reality. When I looked up to thank him, the lobby was empty again. No footsteps on the wet mat by the door. The faint smell of cigar smoke lingered in the air. If that was all that happened, I could have written him off as some weird, old-school manager who liked to sneak around. But rules started appearing everywhere. Under the desk, taped to the inside wood, was a handwritten list in neat Urdu and English. Rule 1. Never open the service corridor after 2 a.m. Rule 2. Do not let guests check out during a storm. Rule 3. Do not answer calls from room 117. That I had never noticed the paper during training. The ink looked old, the edges yellowed on the switchboard. One line had a red dot next to it, 117. I remembered being told, out of order, staff use only. Ignore that extension. It started ringing at 1:42. I watched the little light flash under the red dot. Hamid appeared at the far end of the hallway as if the sound pulled him out of the wall, keys jingling at his side, that cold air flowing around him. Do not answer that, he said. If you answer, he will ask to leave. He always asks to leave. Who? I whispered that he did not answer. You know that feeling when every instinct you have is screaming that something is wrong, but your training keeps you glued in place. That was me. My night audit timer on the screen showed I had just over an hour to finish. The storm outside had turned the world into a white smear. The radio said the road down the mountain was closed. No one was going anywhere. The phone from room 117 rang again. Before I could decide, the elevator doors opened and a woman stepped out, wrapped in a robe with her boots half on. Her eyes looked huge in the low lobby light. Please, she said, coming straight to the desk. I am in 212. There is a man in an old suit standing in the end of the corridor, watching my door. I saw him 3 times. He never blinks. I want to check out now. I will sleep in my car if I have to. Behind her, reflected in the glass, I saw him. Hamid stood at the corridor entrance, hands folded, watching us, expression unreadable. The smell of cigar smoke rolled over the lobby. He shook his head once, slow. Do not let guests check out during a storm, he reminded me softly. For their safety. The bell chimed. The red dot line kept ringing. The generator hummed unevenly, like it was getting tired. I stood between a living woman who was clearly terrified and a man my training manual had never mentioned. If we let her leave, she will not make it down the mountain, he said. If she stays, I will keep watch. Maybe you think you know what you would do. I thought I knew too. But fear does strange math in your head. I convinced her to stay. Offered her another room closer to the lobby, free breakfast, anything. She agreed, reluctantly, eyes fixed on that hallway. Once she was gone, Hamid nodded, satisfied, and walked toward the back. The sound of his keys faded with him that I followed him into the staff corridor, needing answers. I found the small office door that was supposed to belong to management. It was locked. On the wall next to it hung an old staff photograph under dusty glass. Smiling employees, old uniforms, sepia tint. There, in the center, was Hamid, younger but unmistakable. The caption at the bottom read, General Manager Hamid Rahman. Died in service. 1997.my stomach dropped. On the desk inside. Through the glass, I could just make out a ledger left open. On the page facing up, in faded ink, a list of titles and names. Night Manager, Front Desk, Housekeeping. Under Night Manager, a name had been crossed out, then written again in the same hand that I told myself it was a memorial. I told myself someone had a dark sense of humor. I told myself anything that would let me finish the night audit and walk out at sunrise with my job. The phone from room 117 kept ringing. When I finally picked it up, my hand was shaking. Front desk, Rizwan speaking. A man's voice, rough with crying, answered. You finally picked up. Please. He will not let me leave. You have to open the service corridor. The door is jammed from your side. The red dot light glowed steady. Behind me, in the reflection of the office glass, I saw Hamid appear again, calmly watching. Shaking his head. If you open it, you will join us, he said quietly. The clock on my screen flipped to 2:59. I was late on the audit. The generator status window said fuel. EST 1 hour remaining. The storm hammered the walls. The man on the phone sobbed. I am in 117, he whispered. I have been here so long. Please. Company policy said follow the rules. Basic humanity said open the damn door. I overrode the service corridor lock from the computer. There was a heavy clang somewhere deep in the building. The cold I had been feeling all night surged. Wrapping around my legs like fog dot, I walked to the service corridor door, the one my training mentioned only as storage access. When I pulled it open, it did not lead to shelves and cleaning supplies. Instead, a long hallway stretched out, lit by bare bulbs, lined with dark wooden doors. No room numbers, just years carved into the wood. 1981, 1989, 1997, 2005, and so on. At the far end, an office door stood open, lights spilling out. The smell of cigar smoke was thick here, mixed with the metallic tang of old dust. The jingle of keys echoed from somewhere ahead, but I could not see anyone. I stepped inside the office. It was the same room I had just seen through the glass, but here it was alive, papers scattered, lamp on, ashtray full. The ledger lay open on the desk. That on the left page, under Night Manager, was Hamid's name, ink soaked deep into the paper. On the right page, in fainter ink like it had been written long ago and half erased, there was another line. Night Manager, Rizwan. Start date, January 14, but that was the date of my shift. The generator hummed louder, then dipped. The doors with years on them seemed to breathe, with swelling and relaxing. Somewhere behind me, the bell at the front desk rang once, clear as glass, even though I was far from the lobby. If you open the corridor, you join us. Hamid's voice came from nowhere and everywhere. We keep them here during the storms. We keep them safe. Someone must stay on nights. I did what anyone would do when they realize their promotion is to a job that never ends. I ran, the hallway pitched around me. The carved ears blurred. For a moment, I felt hands brush my sleeves from the doors on either side, like someone trying to get my attention, guests, or staff. I could not tell. The next second, I was back in the regular staff corridor, standing in front of the same plain storage door, which was now locked again with a cheap keypad. The generator hum smoothed out. The storm outside softened. It was 4:06. The worst knock I have ever answered came at 3 in the morning from nobody standing in the hallway. If you have ever stayed in too many hotels, you know how they start to blend together. Same beige walls, same buzzing mini fridge, same cheap clock on the nightstand. That night, I was just another tired business traveler in another old city hotel, trying to get a few hours of sleep before a meeting that could decide my job. I was not thinking about ghosts or rules. I was only thinking about not screwing up tomorrow, which is probably why I did exactly what I was told not to do. The first warning came at check-in. The night clerk slid my keycard across the counter, then placed a heavy wooden "Do Not Disturb" sign beside it. It was old-fashioned, dark wood, not the plastic kind you usually see. After midnight, he said quietly, "Hang this on your door and keep it there. If anyone knocks after 3, do not open, no matter what you hear." I laughed because it sounded like a horror movie setup. He did not laugh back. On the back of the sign, someone had carved 3 words so faint I almost missed them. "Do not disturb yourself." I told myself it was just some weird hotel slogan. Nothing more. My room was on the 7th floor, facing a narrow street pulsing with distant neon. Inside, the air smelled like cleaning chemicals and something older underneath. The digital clock on the nightstand blinked 3 o'clock again and again. I set it to 11:17, the actual time. It flashed once, then went straight back to 3 o'clock, like the numbers it wanted were already decided. I turned on the TV, flipping to the hotel security channel out of boredom. It showed my hallway, my door, empty and stretched by the lens. When I glanced at the mirror opposite the bed, I noticed a thin hairline crack running from the frame toward my reflection's eye, like a second outline of my face trying to form. I told myself I was tired and hung the wooden sign on the door anyway, just so the night clerk would be satisfied that I must have fallen asleep, because the next thing I knew, 3 soft knocks pulled me up from a dream. Not loud, not threatening, just polite. The kind of knock you use when you do not want to wake someone completely. I grabbed my phone. The clock still said 3 o'clock, frozen. I checked my watch. Exactly 3:01. I looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. On the TV, the security channel showed my door from the outside. Same angle, same empty carpet. The knocks came again while I watched the screen, 3 gentle taps in perfect time, with nobody there to make them. When my hand brushed the wooden sign, now cold enough to sting my fingers, the knocking stopped, and, just for a second, the clock flickered to 2:59 before freezing back at 3 o'clock. It felt like someone had tried to rewind the night by 1 minute and failed that I convinced myself it was pipes. Or another guest's door echoing through the walls. You tell yourself whatever lets you lie back down. Sometime later, I slipped into that half-sleep where the room feels too quiet. The clock still glowed 3 o'clock. No time passing at all. The next knocks did not come from the hallway. They came from the bathroom wall, right behind the tile. 3 dull thuds, like knuckles hitting plaster from the wrong side. In the mirror, the thin crack seemed deeper, and for a heartbeat my reflection lagged behind my own movement, turning its head just a fraction late. The door handle rattled once, metal scraping softly as if it had moved on its own. I flipped the TV to the security channel again. For one frozen frame, I saw myself standing outside my own door, phone to my ear, before the image snapped back to an empty hall that suddenly looked too long. I shut the TV off and listened to the room breathe. The third time, there was a voice. I woke to the wooden sign tapping gently against the door as if someone was flicking it with a fingernail. 3 knocks. Then, in a voice so close to mine it made my skin crawl, I heard someone on the other side say my name. "Hey, it is me. You locked me out." It sounded tired, annoyed, like I do when I talk to myself in hotel mirrors before presentations. "Can I come in now?" The peephole view was wrong. The hallway looked stretched, the exit sign letters mirrored, and where there should have been blank wall opposite my room, I thought I saw the faint outline of another door with my same number. The wooden sign on my side of the door felt like ice in my hand. Behind me, the nightstand directory had slipped open on its own, a page folded to an old incident notice reminding guests not to disturb others at night, not to disturb what rests. Someone, at some point, had written in the margin, "You opened for yourself. You let him in." By then I was exhausted, shaking with a mix of anger and fear. I had a meeting at 9. I could not spend the whole night jumping at sounds. "Enough," I muttered. When the next 3 knocks came, perfectly spaced, I ripped the wooden sign off the handle and clicked the lock open, determined to prove that there was nothing there. The clock on the nightstand rolled its digits for the first time that night, climbing from 2:59 to 3 o'clock as the latch turned. I flung the door wide and raised my phone to film the empty hallway I was sure I would see. What I saw was not my hallway. The corridor outside looked like a reflection. The wallpaper pattern was reversed. The exit sign at the far end read correctly in my head, but backward to my eyes, like I was reading it in a mirror. Opposite my door, where real architecture should have ended in a wall, stood another door with my room number. Same scuffs, same peephole. Through that peephole, I could just make out a figure in my bed, half sitting up, looking toward the door. Me. Same shirt, same hair, same tired expression I recognized from too many hotel nights. In my room, the lamp was still on. In the version I was looking into, it flickered slightly, just out of sync. The voice came again, not from the hallway, but from inside the other door. My own voice filtered through wood. "Can I come in now? You left me outside." That was when it hit me that I was not looking at an intruder trying to get into my room. I was the one outside, standing in the position that should not exist, knocking on my own door from the wrong side of the night. The next thing I remember clearly is my phone alarm drilling into my skull. Morning light was leaking around the curtains. The clock on the nightstand finally showed a normal time. My door was locked. The wooden sign hung politely on the outside handle when I peeked out, as if I had never touched it. I told myself it was a nightmare brought on by stress and stale air. It was easier than the alternative. At checkout, the desk clerk slid my bill across the counter. Under the room charge and taxes, one line sat by itself. Late night room change fee. I had never asked to change rooms. Weeks later, in another city, another chain hotel, I opened my suitcase and my stomach dropped. At the bottom, under my shirts, lay the same heavy wooden "Do Not Disturb" sign, dark and smooth, the carved words on the back now sharpened as if freshly cut. Do not disturb yourself. That night, the new room's digital clock blinked once, then settled on 3 o'clock, waiting. The only time I have been genuinely unsure I ever made it back to the ground was in a hotel elevator that refused to believe in the lobby. If you travel a lot for work, elevators become background noise. You stop thinking about how they are just metal boxes hanging from cables, how you trust a flickering display to tell you where you are in the building and in the night. That trip, I arrived at a tall business hotel just after midnight, dead tired, brain half melted from a late flight. I was thinking about my 5 a.m. airport shuttle and the client meeting after that. Not about what happens when the building decides you are not done writing .at check-in. The front desk clerk tried to make a joke of it. If the elevator skips the lobby on you, he said, sliding my key across, just ignore whatever you see and ride it again. I smiled like I got the joke. It does that when it is tired? I asked. He did not smile back. Old wiring, he said. Try not to ride it alone after 3. He said that last part like a reflex, the way you repeat a rule you do not really want to explain. The elevator looked normal. Brushed metal doors, dull mirror inside, faint hotel music leaking from a speaker in the ceiling. On the panel, floors L through 18. Number 13, because someone a long time ago decided that number scared people. As I rode up for the first time, the floor display blinked. L, 2, 3, 4. Then, for half a second, it showed 0 before jumping to 7. The delayed ding sounded a beat after the doors opened, like the elevator was announcing an arrival it had already made. I told myself it was just a glitch. You cannot travel as much as I do and treat every weird sound like a sign. You would never sleep. The room was fine. Beige, anonymous, the way chain rooms are designed to erase their own personality. I set my alarm for 4:30, tossed my bag on the chair, and told myself I had 4 good hours if I fell asleep right away. I did not. At some point after 2, my stomach dragged me back out for snacks, so I took the elevator down again. The lobby was almost empty, the cleaner mopping in slow circles, piano music playing softly over hidden speakers that on the way back up, alone in the car, the display scrolled down. 10, 9, 8, 7. Then jumped to 2. The ding chimed and the doors opened, but what I saw was not my hallway. It was the lobby again, or a version of it. The same layout, same desk, but the furniture was older, the chairs a slightly different color, the brochures on the stand yellowed around the edges. The cleaner was gone. The music sounded like the same song played on an older, slower recording. Going up? I called, half joking to no one in particular. No one answered. The air out there did not feel right. Heavy, flat, like a photograph of a room instead of the room itself. I stepped back, pressed my floor again, and the doors slid shut. When they opened next, it was on my actual hallway, with the patterned carpet I remembered and the same faint smell of detergent. I might have convinced myself I had just imagined the wrong lobby if it had ended there. Back in my room, I checked my watch. 2:40. Out of curiosity, I glanced at the digital clock I could see down in the lobby through the glass when the elevator doors opened a crack. It had read 1:10. Time should not be different by more than a few seconds between floors. You start to notice that kind of thing when you are clinging to every minute of sleep. The third ride was the one that broke it. I overslept. When I shot up in bed, my watch said 4:52. I had 8 minutes to get downstairs before the shuttle left without me. I grabbed my bag, jammed my feet into my shoes, and sprinted for the elevator, jabbing the down button like my life depended on it. Maybe it did. Inside, the air felt different. Staler, like it had been sitting and used for years. The inspection certificate behind the little plastic window had warped, dates smudged into gray, but when I wiped at the condensation with my sleeve, I realized something that made my scalp prickle. The next inspection due date was the same as that night's date, printed over and over in different fonts, as if the elevator had been due every year and never cleared. The emergency phone label had peeled, leaving only a few words readable. Do not ride alone after 3. Too late, the doors closed. The delayed ding sounded behind the motion, like it was chasing the car instead of leading it. The floor display began its countdown. 18, 17, 16. Then it flickered. -1, 13, 0, 7. I watched numbers that did not belong in that building scroll by while my ears popped, even though we were not moving that far. Somewhere above, the lobby music seeped into the car, warped, like a cassette running low on power. The elevator shuddered and stopped. Not at L. Not at any labeled floor. The display went blank, then, slowly, lit up with my room number instead of a level. I pressed the emergency button. After a crackle of static, I heard my own voice come back at me, faint and delayed, asking, "What floor are you on?" Through the hairline gap between the doors, I could see the lobby at an angle, like I was stuck between film frames. The front desk, the revolving door, the shuttle driver checking his watch. Standing at the counter, bag in hand, was me. Same jacket, same hair, talking to the clerk, sliding a keycard back. The version of me down there did not look up. He did not act like he could hear the frantic pounding. I started slamming into the doors. To him, I did not exist. When the doors finally opened, it was on the lobby. Or almost. The carpets were the older style again. The air smelled faintly of dust and lemon. The clock over the desk read 4:10, even though my watch said 4:58. The shuttle driver was nowhere in sight. The clerk behind the desk did not match the one I remembered from check-in. He looked vaguely like him, but younger, his name badge a different color. Did I miss the shuttle? I asked. He looked through me for a second, then smiled politely. "We do not have a shuttle service, sir," he said. "We have not for years." Behind me, the elevator doors closed with that same too late ding. In the mirrored metal, my reflection did not move quite in sync. For a fraction of a second, I saw two of me standing at slightly different angles, one with a suitcase, one without. When I blinked, there was only one. The next thing I remember clearly is waking up in my room again, alarm screaming, heart racing like I had been running. The time said 4:29. I made the shuttle that morning, checked out, shook the clerk's hand, and told myself the whole thing had been a stressed dream packed into a few seconds of real sleep. That is the easiest way to keep walking. You pick the version of your night that lets you get on with your day. Still, as I rolled my suitcase across the lobby, the elevator dinged behind me just a little too late. Weeks later, in a totally different city, in a different company's building, I stepped into another elevator without thinking. It closed. The music in the ceiling started, a warped piano melody I knew too well. The floor display flickered once, then showed a number that was not any floor at all. It was my old room number from that first hotel. If you ever see your room number on the floor display, do yourself a favor. Let the doors close again. Some rides do not end where you think they do. And that was the last story for tonight. 4 hotel stays, 4 nights that should have been forgettable, and 4 people who will never look at rooms, elevators, or quiet corridors the same way again. Maybe you noticed the pattern by now. None of them found their horror out in the open. It was in the things we trust without thinking. The glowing floor numbers, the ringing phones, the polite signs on our doors, the managers and systems that are supposed to keep everything normal. The buildings did what they were designed to do. They kept people inside. Just not always in the way they expected. If you have ever had a strange moment in a hotel, a knock no one heard, an extra floor on a map, a reflection that moved a little too slow, you know how these stories feel. They get under your skin the next time you slide your key into a door in a city where nobody knows your name. Before you go, tell me in the comments, which story would scare you the most if it happened to you in real life? The room that did not exist, the manager who would not leave, the knock at 3 a.m., or the elevator that skipped the lobby? If you made it all the way to the end, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell so you do not miss the next night shift of stories. Sleep well, and if the phone rings from a room that is not on your floor plan, maybe let it go to voicemail.